All right, we're live on the internet. Hey, hi, everyone.
Yeah.
And apparently I need to be quicker on the logo click there.
Oh, that's not easy. That timing, that window is so
That was
tight.
beautiful.
Hey, everyone. I'm Alan from Gallant Knight Games, and this is my fantastic crew of friends who's going to game with us tonight and for the next 12 weeks. And by the end of it, we'll regret it, I'm sure. But we're here playing Tiny Cthulhu. And we're going to start in the top left with Gina, and we're going to introduce ourselves, and we'll loop around, and then I'll hand off the show to our GM, Madi, who will introduce everything and get us rolling. So, everybody, let's just say who we are, where people can find you if they want, and we'll get rolling.
Awesome. My name is Gina. You can find me on Twitter as @GinaRicker. And I've been doing podcasting and streaming games for a number of years. And in my real life, I do freelance editing and writing and that sort of thing, mainly game world stuff. And I'm really excited to be here.
I think that's me around the circle.
Yep.
I'm Ryan. You might know me from my work on Man vs. Meeple, which is a board game content creation channel on YouTube. You can find most of my videos there on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter @LoremasterRyan, where I tweet mostly about board games and my work as an RPG designer. So I'm excited to be here. I love the Tiny D6 system.
Great. And we'll go to Ashley down there.
Awesome. I'm Ashley. You might know me from Amory Alpha. I do an actual play podcast using one of Alan's other Tiny D6 systems, Tiny Frontiers. So that one's set in the Star Trek universe. I also do another gaming podcast called Full Metal RPG. So I enjoy podcasting. I enjoy gaming. So I'm very excited to be here and be traumatized by Madi. See what she has for us. You can find me on Instagram @siscat12. Is pretty much where I'm at.
Cool. And I'm Alan Bahr of Gallant Knight Games. I anticipate that if you're here, you know who I am, and I'm not going to say anything more. And we'll hand it off to our GM, Madi, who will walk us through this game.
Awesome. Okay. I'm really excited to play this with y'all. We are going to play Tiny Cthulhu, and we're specifically going to set our campaign in the late 1890s in the Yukon. I'm just explaining for everyone. In case you haven't seen our awesome ads that Alan has been putting out on social media recently. We are going to be playing in a tiny boomtown during the Klondike Gold Rush. And so each of our characters have come to the north or have originally been from the north and just are kind of drawn to this boomtown for various reasons in order to obviously answer the call of adventure and look for potentially gold or something like that. Okay. So I would actually like everyone to introduce their characters so that we can kind of just get a feel of who you are and what you're interested in doing up here this far north. So maybe we'll just go in the same order that we went with introduction. So we'll start with Gina.
Excellent. I am playing a character called Katie McGraw. Katie is primarily like a fur trapper. Her father grew up in this area, has been in the Yukon for generations. Mom, not so much, but met dad, fell in love, had like a million kids. And so Katie's been doing this all her life. She's currently on her own, separated from her family, maybe not for too long. Lives in a little hunting shack outside town and has a little buddy that's been with her most of her life, a raven named Edgar.
My character is called Blue-Eyed Bailey. At least that's kind of what he's known around town. He is a financier, and I'll put that in quotes. He comes from a wealthy banking family in San Francisco, but he's always kind of been a black sheep. So he left his family with very little to come up here. He's kind of a con man. He has skills. He used to do investigations and things for the bank, but now he kind of uses those to learn information about people in order to get what he wants. So he has a financier's office, which is basically just a front for him to kind of scheme. And he also lives there because he doesn't really have a place to live. Even though he talks about his grand estates. No one really knows where it is or anything really about him. So yeah, we'll see what kind of shenanigans he gets up to.
Right. I will be playing Molly McGee. She is a new money dilettante. She is originally from Nevada, grew up on a farm, so she's simple farming folk, and got married, went to San Francisco to get in on the gold rush because that's what her husband wanted to do. And he ended up passing away while they were there. So she traveled up north to Yukon to see what the next big thing was going to be. And she's all about living life.
I will be playing Jameson Moore, the musher and sled dog runner who travels between towns carrying goods, messages, what have you. He's sort of a frontiersman, outdoorsy sort. And I've grown my beard out to get in character, so this is where we are. It's certainly not because of the frigid wasteland in which I currently live in the real world.
So you're just living Jameson's best life right now.
I like to play what I know.
Well, I think you need like 7 more dogs.
Yeah.
If you consult my wife on 7 more dogs, I can go for that.
I'll talk to Aaron about that. Cool. Okay. Well, we've been playing the last couple of weeks just to kind of get a feel for.
You gotta introduce yourself.
Oh, I got.
Yeah.
You didn't say who you were.
Totally forgot about that. Okay, I'm Maddie Murdoch. I am a freelance gaming writer and also a professor at a private college where I live in Salt Lake City. I basically have written for IPs like Legend of the Five Rings. So that's probably where most people know my work from. But I also have several novellas, and I do work for Alan as well, which is pretty fun. So I've been working on a couple of his games, including Tiny Cthulhu, and I'm really super glad to be playing this game because it's so fun. Okay. Is that good enough of an introduction?
That's great.
Awesome. Okay.
Fantastic.
All right. So to jump into the campaign, we've been playing a little bit just so that our players can get used to their characters. But now we're going to kind of just like pretend, clean slate, that whatever we were playing before hasn't happened. So we're going to have everyone just kind of reset, and we're going to start where we started before, which is you're all going to be in the Saloon. Now, to kind of describe the town just a little bit, this is called the town of Porte Blanche, and it is a relatively new boomtown established right next to a gold mine. The gold mine exists on the far west side of town. There's a little mining operation over there. Then we have the little main street with a bunch of small businesses, and of course the necessities for a frontier town, including things like a stable, a saloon, a hotel, financier's office, a church, a jail, and some shops. And then of course we also have on the east side of town some it's a tent camp, essentially, where a lot of the miners live and work. Especially this is where the poorer miners live, or the kind of the prospectors live, who can't afford room and board either at the hotel or the cheaper boarding house. Okay, so there are actually quite a few people in this boomtown. We're considering how old it is. It's only been up for about 1.5 years, but it's got at least maybe a couple hundred people, like 300 or 400 people in it. So it's quite large considering how small the town is. There's also a river that runs past it, and there's kind of a cliff face on the side of the town. And then also the cliff kind of juts down into a more shallow area where most of the prospectors will pan for gold. Now, we've kind of established before that the mayor of this town is this rich man named Eric Barden. And Eric Barden is the self-proclaimed mayor. He basically financed the mine. He financed the building of the boomtown. And he basically owns every single building on Main Street. He is a very wealthy but just kind of eccentric sort of person, and just really enjoys being in charge of everything. So all of you know him because he's the man about town, right? He's just kind of got his fingers in all the pies here. So we're going to go ahead and start, like I said, at the saloon. We have a couple of people that you know that are also at the saloon. To set the kind of the scene, we are looking at like early winter. So we've definitely got snow by this point. It's relatively cold, really all day long. And of course it gets much colder at night, and night comes on pretty early. So we're seeing night, sunset really early in almost the afternoon. Okay. So, and of course, after dark, there's not much to do in a tiny boomtown besides drink. So all of you are at the saloon. And of course, the wonderful bartender, Virgil Owen, who is behind the bar. Okay. So just to kind of set the scene, what does your character usually do when you hang out at the saloon after dark?
Well, Bailey's probably at the actual bar talking to Virgil. Bailey doesn't have a ton of friends because people either want something from him or maybe he's wronged them. So there's kind of this schism between him and some of the people in town. But Virgil has always been kind of friendly to him. And, Virgil knows that he kind of has a good heart. So he's usually at the bar using his hard-earned money to buy drinks or maybe tell a story to get someone to buy a drink for him. So
Nice.
Sitting right there where people can see him.
Yep. Excellent.
I'm probably right in the middle at a table with a bunch of the miners, just hearing their stories, talking to some of the people around town.
And you're definitely hearing some stories. And so we'll come back to you to kind of tell you what's going on in the conversation.
Okay.
I saw Alan. He pulled up a bottle almost as soon as we started talking about the saloon.
What are you trying to say? Hey.
Just so you're prepared.
I am as far away from everyone as possible at my own table, drinking heavily, probably.
Okay.
And assuming that the reason nobody likes Bailey is because Bailey is imminently unlikable.
Virgil likes you, Bailey.
Jameson is not an easy guy to charm, and I'm sure Bailey has tried his charms on Jameson in the past, and it probably hasn't worked.
Which is making Jameson like you less.
Yeah, exactly.
The only people who like
hard.
the only people who like Jameson are his dogs. Don't stress about it.
And are the dogs the only people that Jameson likes?
Probably his dogs. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Excellent. How about you, Katie?
Probably a very similar stance to Jameson, where not peopling and just like in a space, probably at the bar, but not around Bailey, and probably not, giving Jameson his space. And Edgar is probably picking at stuff on the floor near her.
Okay. Now, I will say that Virgil was a little hesitant to let your animal familiar, your raven, into the bar, but because he's kind of superstitious, let's just say. So he was kind of seeing it as an omen of death and bad fortune. And so he was a little bit hesitant, but you wouldn't take no for an answer. So he's just kind of like, okay. Hands
That's
off. Fair. Let it happen.
Totally fair.
Unfortunately, Jameson, he did draw the line at dogs, though. No dogs in the saloon. Okay, let's go to Molly. So Molly, you obviously are just kind of listening to all of the story. So we have a couple of miners that you actually know quite well because, again, after dark, there's not much to do but congregate. And so you've made fast friends with a couple of these people. The miners that you're talking to specifically are named Duff and Sal. Okay. Now, Duff is kind of I would say like a career miner. Like he's kind of like you, where he was just chasing the gold rush, right? So he went to San Francisco, didn't make his fortune there, made it all the way up to the Klondike, again, trying to strike gold, and he never really quite made it. So he knows a lot about mining and panning for gold and at least the life of this sort of thing. But he's just never really had luck. Sal is someone quite new to it. He actually lives up here in Canada and just came because he was like, oh, this sounds like a promising thing. However, the thing that they're talking about tonight is not mining. The thing that they're talking about tonight is one of their friends named Queasy Martin. Okay, so Duff kind of turns to you and says, "Have you seen Queasy Martin lately?" And Sal's like, "Oh yeah, he is not enjoying himself." And Duff is like, "Yeah, that's putting it mildly. He's, well, he's lost his marbles." And as they're talking about this person, Queasy Martin, he's been around. He's kind of like the town drunk. I mean, like, he is intoxicated most of the day. He's run a huge tab up at the saloon, and really doesn't get a lot of mining done. He really just kind of like passes out in his tent and then just kind of gets up to drink, and that's it. Everyone seems to like him though, because he's just jolly and kind of happy-go-lucky, doesn't really care. But they are a little bit concerned about him, his friends. So Duff and Sal are just saying, "Molly, like, you might want to be careful if you see him around town. He's been kind of saying a lot of weird things." And Sal says, "Yeah, he's gotten really religious lately. He wasn't really that way before." And then they're just kind of talking about, like, I wonder why that is. And then suddenly we have the sheriff approach. Okay, the sheriff is a woman in her mid-40s, early 50s. Her name is Cleo Vargas, and she was actually hired to come be the sheriff for Bardenstown. And she has one of her deputies with her, and she approaches you all, and she says to you, Molly, specifically, "Look, they're talking a lot about Queasy Martin, and I get it, but there's nothing wrong with him." And she's basically saying, like, "I don't know what's going on. I've never had to put him in jail or anything. He's totally fine. He's just acting like his normal self." And Sal and Duff kind of look at her and say, "Okay, if you say so, Sheriff." And they kind of seem a little bit worried, like they're intimidated by her. They don't want to at least confront her to her face and discredit what she's saying. And then she just kind of says, "Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just who he is." And then she just kind of walks off toward the back of the bar.
Okay, so I say, before she walks off, I say, in this kind of town, I can see how someone's either going to turn to the bar or religion. So maybe the bar's not working out for him, and that's where he's headed instead.
And she kind of turns and says, "Yeah, sure. Okay." Just kind of doesn't really credit what you're saying, but and she definitely seems like the headstrong kind of person where she doesn't take advice from anyone. Whatever she believes. So she's just like, "Yeah, whatever." As soon as she's gone, though, Duff and Sal say, "No, she's wrong. Don't tell her. We didn't want to say it to her face, but she's wrong." The reason we know she's wrong is because, about a month back, Queasy Martin, he went out walking in the middle of the night. Do you remember that? And Sal's like, "Yeah, I remember that." And Duff says, "Yeah, he went out walking in the middle of the night, and he didn't come back till morning. We thought he was just off to the saloon, but apparently he wasn't. Virgil says he wasn't here. He came back, and he said that he saw something in the sky." And we were like, "What's in the sky?" And we made a joke about an angel, I think. Maybe he saw angels floating around. And then as soon as we said that, he went straight to the church. So whatever he saw in the middle of the night turned him to religion." And they're like, "So, just saying, you probably shouldn't go out at nighttime. There's something out there. I don't know what it is, but it got into Queasy Martin's head. Now he's just not himself anymore."
If I didn't want to be out after dark, I'd have to go home at about 3:00.
Okay, turning to you, Bailey. Virgil kind of hears people talking about Queasy Martin, and he turns to you and says, "I knew that Queasy Martin was never going to pay me, but I kind of miss him being in here all the time."
Yeah, he was a good guy. I mean, he is a good guy. He's always good for a beer, always good for a conversation.
Yeah. Did you hear about what happened to him?
I mean, you mean how he got his nickname Queasy? I don't know. I don't know a lot about the guy. Other than he tells some good stories, but I don't think he gets a lot of work done.
No, he doesn't. And so I really wasn't planning on getting paid by him, but I
Right.
really hope that he's not giving his money to, that pastor over there at the church.
Yeah, and they call me a con man.
I mean, I got nothing against the pastor. He's good people, but I mean, like, what's Queasy Martin really gonna do with all of those prayers?
Out here people see crazy stuff. I've seen crazy stuff happen to people all the time. I don't know. I don't fault someone for finding a belief in something that's not true, but that's just me.
Oh, you're very generous, Bailey. And Virgil kind of steps away to go help a couple of customers, and then he makes his way over to where the sheriff is. Now, Jameson and Katie, you're kind of in the corners, not quite mingling, but you definitely have seen what's going on. And the sheriff kind of parks her seat at a table next to you, not exactly right next to you, but close enough that if you wanted to, you could kind of hear what she's talking about with her deputy if you'd like. Jameson's like, nope, don't care.
Getting involved with other people's stuff is how you get in trouble.
That is true. How about you, Katie? Interested in what the sheriff has to say?
It depends. I think if it's hushed tones and that sort of thing, she would not. But if every once in a while there's something that's a little more like more emphasis or something, she might pick it up just because she's nearby.
Okay.
But otherwise, there's not a ton of intent there.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and just have you roll just to see if you hear anything by accident. Not that you're really paying attention, but just in case, something comes up.
Success.
One
I got a 3 and a 5.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of aren't paying attention. You're just kind of nursing your drink, watching Edgar play around on the floor. But you do hear the words, specifically Barden and shipment. Okay. And they don't seem very happy while they're talking about this. Okay. So, of course, Barden is the mayor.
Yeah.
And, things get shipped in and out of this place all of the time because, Port Town needs supplies. So it's not anything necessarily out of the ordinary. But as you hear those words, you can definitely see that the sheriff looks really angry about it.
I think I would pay more attention because of the fact that Vargas, Sheriff Vargas, was not happy about it. So it might affect my livelihood or, that sort of thing, depending on what she's displeased with.
That's true, because anything that really affects the town affects your commerce, right? So your ability to
being able to trade and
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and just keep your success. So if you hear this and you want to kind of hear more, you sort of not exactly lean, but you listen and concentrate a little bit more on the conversation. And what you're hearing is basically the sheriff telling her deputy that Eric is involved in something. And I don't like it. Now, he brought me up here promising me a mighty fine paycheck. And he's been delivering. But what I'm just saying is if he's running some kind of scam up here, I don't know if I really want to be involved. And her deputy's like, well, I know you're a law woman, but does it really matter? And she kind of gives him a hard stare and says, of course it matters. Barden is my friend, but I don't really want to be involved in anything that he's doing, especially if he's pulling the wool over the eyes of all of these people. And the deputy says, surely it can't be that bad. And Sheriff Vargas says, well, I'm not sure yet, but I'm hoping to get to the bottom of it sometime soon. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm still just kind of paying attention, not really moved to do anything with the information yet.
Okay. All right. Around this time, you all hear something going on outside. There seems to be some shouting, and then some people like running past the door of the saloon. And then in the far distance, you actually hear some gunshots.
Well, at the sound of gunshots, I am up and moving out the door.
Okay, the sheriff is just a second behind you. Okay.
I'm
Well,
watching.
that is embarrassing for the sheriff.
Well, she had her feet propped up.
I go up and peek out the window, but I'm not going outside yet.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, but I'm also not letting my drink out of my sight, so it's coming with me.
Okay.
That's smart.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and have Molly. Let's have you roll to see if you can see anything out of the window, and Jameson, let's see if you see anything out of the door. And it's about, like I said, dark, so it's going to be a little bit tricky to see anything. But I mean, the street is lit up with some torches and stuff. So. You don't see anything, Molly. How about you, Jameson?
I got a success.
Okay. All right. Jameson, you can definitely see that there are people coming out of the hotel, which is right next to the saloon on the west side. People are coming out of the hotel and just kind of like walking/running down toward the tent camp on the east side of town. Okay. And the sheriff kind of says, "Excuse me, Jameson," and she kind of muscles past you and she rushes out the door. Her deputy is kind of like, I don't know, and runs out past you as well.
Is Katie or Molly near me?
Molly's right beside you, looking out the window.
I got a weird sense of deja vu, but it ain't quite right.
You see people running down the street a lot.
It happens more here than one might suspect.
I have noticed that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Virgil kind of says, I'm kind of hoping to calm everyone down and make sure that no one actually leaves the saloon, because then they wouldn't be buying drinks. So he says, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm sure the sheriff's got it under control. I bet there was just a skunk or something out there, right? He's just trying to like calm everyone down. It's not working very well.
Skunks that know how to shoot firearms.
Right. I like that you went to that instead of they were shooting at the skunk. It's obviously that the skunk was shooting at them.
Yeah.
You know what? Hey.
Oh, here in the Yukon.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
this isn't every night. Like, this kind of thing doesn't happen every night. So it's interesting to Bailey. So while he's not going to go out the door like Jameson might, he is still going to try to get to a place where he can see what's going on. Because this is kind of drama, and there's no TV up in the Yukon. So
true. Gotta get your drama in somewhere.
right.
Okay.
The bar is so low.
Katie, you're Edgar on the floor. He just kind of like looks up at you, and he doesn't exactly say anything, but he looks like he's concentrating, as if he's like listening to something in the distance.
Oh, gotcha.
He's kind of just like kind of perking his head up as if he's trying to listen very carefully.
What you got, Edgar?
And for those of you that don't know, Edgar, right, is Katie's familiar, and he can actually talk to her telepathically. Okay, so he does speak to her. So no one else can hear it, but she can. And he kind of says, I think something's happening down by the river. He said, something bad.
Something bad? All right. I would probably know that usually when Edgar is talking about something like that, it's more, it's bad. It's like something bad. So it's not just like, oh, those were, there's like a domestic over in the third tent over in the second aisle of the, there's something not good happening.
Yeah.
Think we ought to head down there.
Okay. Now all of you also hear another gunshot and then another gunshot. And you hear a few more people kind of yelling again in the direction of the tent town.
Katie was at the bar the entire time, like when other people, because I don't think probably gunshots are super unusual as the camp has grown and, there's drink available and that sort of thing. But at this point, I think she's going to take the last of her slug of whiskey and Jameson. I think we should head down to the river.
That seems like a foolhardy thing to do.
You're probably right. But it seems like the right thing to do.
Every day I regret knowing you a little bit more.
Thank you.
Well, if Miss McGraw is headed down to the river, then Mr. Moore will follow suit. And he will make sure Miss McGee comes along.
Like, why are you dragging me into this? There's gunshots that way. Why would I want to go down toward the gunshots?
I have a suspicion that if I were to leave you be, bad things would happen to everybody.
That's fair. Yes. Yeah. Well, if
Plus,
that's where everyone's going, I'm not one to be left out, so I will absolutely join the party.
I'll whistle for one of my dogs to join us.
Okay. Now, are your dogs just like tied up outside on a leash, or?
Oh, heavens no.
Because Virgil said you couldn't have them in the saloon. So.
Yeah, they're laying around outside, right outside the saloon.
Okay.
Do you keep them? Are they still hooked up to the sled for easy
getaways? I'm not a monk. No.
That's his getaway driver team of sled dogs.
Okay,
look,
so they're just right there, well trained enough to like sit on the porch and wait for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
What kind of sled dog musher person do you think I am?
That's fair.
Well, I want to make sure our audience knows what kind you are. So.
I think they're probably all kenneled up, but they're super floofy, right? And they look like
all dogs
freaking adorable.
Yeah. It's true.
So this is the first time the audience goes, "Aww, oh."
Dogs
in unison.
The live stream, just so we're clear.
Yeah. I think this is clear. Yeah.
By the way, Alan did name every single dog in his sled team.
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
They are all individuals.
I've got age, I've got gender, I've got position on the sled team. Like I know more about this dog than about my character. Like
Excellent. Well, a lot of people in the saloon are starting to kind of file out, and because they're curious. These gunshots keep going off, and there's more yelling kind of in that direction toward the river. Virgil,
yeah, Bailey's going.
Okay, Virgil definitely pulls out his gun and kind of sets it on the table or on the bar and is worried. He's not going to leave, though, because he knows the moment he turns his back, everyone's going to be looting whatever's behind the bar. So he's holding the fort down. But he says, why don't y'all make sure you go and come back and tell me what's going on? Okay, so all of you go outside. It is pitch black. It is a beautiful starry night, but it is cold. It is bitter cold. There is a strangely cold wind that is coming out. And when I say strangely cold, I mean like it's unnaturally cold. So Katie, you've lived up here for a long time being a fur trapper. You're used to this kind of weather. Same thing with you, Jameson. You've lived and operated up in this country for a while. And for it to be this cold, this early in the winter is a little odd. Okay.
Did you tell us approximately what time of year it was? And I didn't catch it.
It's like almost early winter, late fall.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Perfect.
Is there like a torch or lantern or something nearby?
Yep, there is.
I'm gonna grab that if it's as dark as you're saying.
Okay, excellent. And we do see a couple people with candles and with lanterns just kind of leaving the hotel, going down toward the camp. And as you look down the hill to where the tent town is, you see that there are a lot of people with lanterns, torches, candles, kind of milling around the tents, looking for something. The gunshots have stopped, but you do hear people still yelling. Okay, as you make your way down there and you get a little bit closer, you can hear that people are yelling at something in the river. They're saying, "It ran that way. I saw its red eyes glowing. We got to chase that thing down, shoot it dead." And all of the campers and the miners are just kind of milling around, just like pointing in all of these directions. saying what's what. You hear the sheriff yelling, making sure that no one else is shooting at anything because she doesn't want anyone getting hurt. Okay. Molly, behind you, Sal is saying, I wonder what's going on. They said there's something over in the river. And Sal just kind of runs off and Duff says, I don't know. I don't know if we should go out there. And he kind of pulls out his revolver and he's looking in the dark and he's got a lantern. And he says, I wonder what's out there. Now, as you all approach, right, again, you're just seeing people. You don't exactly know what they've been shooting at you, but you did hear a lot of kind of people talking about something. Something was in the camp. Something with red eyes. It was running around. It made a strange noise. It was howling. It was grunting. It was kind of dripping goo out of its mouth. And it made this weird footprint. And someone's like pointing in the mud.
I'm gonna look at the footprint in the mud.
Okay.
Can I roll survivalist to see if I know what kind of animal it is?
Sure. Yeah, you've been out in the wild before. Go ahead and roll.
It's clearly a giraffe.
they're super common up
single
here.
success on that roll. And
Straight
I mean,
ones.
it might as well be a giraffe. You're looking at this footprint, and it's been trampled a bunch of times. There's barely a footprint there. Like maybe it's an animal footprint, but you really can't tell because there's just been a lot of traffic running past it anyway. So
I turn to Duff and Sal behind me and I say, they're saying red eyes. That sounds kind of demony. Where's your friend Queasy at?
and they say, well, last we heard he was gonna go, put in a couple more prayers before turning in. So maybe he was at the church. I don't know.
Now, hold on, Miss McGraw. You can't possibly be saying that good old Queasy is some sort of demonic entity from the very fire and brimstone of hell itself.
Well, Miss McGee said that, not Miss McGraw. And also, I meant that it was kind of his thing, not like that he was the demon, but he would be very interested in a demon running around given his newfound religion and all.
Fair enough. In my defense, McGee and McGraw are not as dissimilar as one could hope in a pre-planned actual play RPG game.
I thought about that actually when we were looking at our names earlier. I was like, those are real close. Yep.
Gina's character is right here in my line of sight, so I constantly am seeing McGraw.
McGraw.
I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
It just goes to show in any group of people, there's going to be two people with the same name. It just always happens.
It's true.
You just can't do it. It's impossible.
Edgar,
All right.
can I would like to see, I'm going to talk to Edgar.
Okay.
Edgar, can you do fly around and see if you can get an eye on this beast? I'm just going to reach in her pocket and there's, I don't know, probably little bits of meat, because why wouldn't, so that she feeds him a little bit of meat and lets him see if he can go fly overhead and see if he can see the beast.
Okay. So Edgar kind of jumps up off your shoulder, tries to catch one of the cold winds and kind of disappears off into the dark. Okay.
Awesome.
Jameson, your dogs are excited. They're excited that there's people running around, but they don't seem perturbed at all. They're just kind of like looking at all the people running past.
All right. And my dogs ain't bothered. I ain't bothered.
Yeah. Okay. Now Sal says, I'm going to go get a better look. And he runs off into the dark, kind of toward where everyone's pointing in the river. The sheriff kind of comes up to you all and says, everyone just sees shadows in the dark. I really should go put more people in jail some of these days. Maybe it'll teach them to just stop making up stories and spooking themselves.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a great idea to me. And also, why are you up here when the problem seems to be down there?
There's nothing down there. I was just down there. You want to go look? You want to go confirm what I already know? What I saw with my own 2 eyes? Says, I don't think
Bailey's the point of contention we all Rally round.
Yeah, Bailey's the guy that you want out there trying to restore order in the middle of chaos. No.
It interrupted your graft, so it's annoying.
All right. Well, the sheriff is a little perturbed that you were willing to contradict what she saw down by the river, which was nothing. Her deputy does look a little shaken, though. Like he was like, "There, I heard some splashing."
Can I do an insight roll to see if maybe they're lying to us about that?
Sure, you're welcome to do that.
Let's see. One success.
Are you okay? Are you using a trait? It'd be good to kind of tell her.
Oh yeah, I am. I'm using my insightful trait, which is one of my 4 traits that I have. So
excellent. Okay.
yeah, I got 1 success on it.
One success. That's good enough. All right. So, as far as you can tell, it seems like the sheriff's not lying. So she genuinely thinks there's nothing wrong down there. She went and looked and didn't see anything that was worth it. She just seems really mad at whoever was shooting. And she feels like she's justified in her anger because these people dragged half the town down by the river to look at nothing.
Well, maybe she should rustle up whoever was doing that shooting.
She tried, but no one's pointing fingers and no one's willing to come forward. So
Well, if
it's a little
politics is pointing fingers, I'll point a finger at Bailey. No problem.
I wasn't even down there.
Just
Do you
saying.
even have?
I don't even own a gun, Jameson. Who's here with all the guns?
Don't matter.
Can I get over to the deputy and kind of just say, wow, this is a whole lot of ruckus down here where there, are there kids in the mining camp? Are there kids that live here?
There are no children.
Okay. I was going to say it sounds like a bad place for kids to be running around, but maybe someone that was definitely an adult was throwing rocks into the river or something. What do you think?
And the deputy just kind of like wanders a little bit closer to you, hopefully out of earshot of the sheriff, and says, yeah, maybe. That might explain the splashing that I heard.
Mm-hmm. What else did you see other than hearing some splashing? Some people are saying there were some wild things.
It was pitch black. I didn't see anything. Just the darkness of the mountain against the starlit sky, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to see anything out here right now. So.
Damn, Sheriff, you should be a poet.
All right. Now, you do hear Sal kind of yelling from the river. Hey, get some help down here. There's somebody in the river.
Oh, well,
That's not good.
I'll head down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point I'll go.
I don't ignore
Every guy
people
might
to
be
help.
just screaming, Cthulhu, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be the first person.
But you're technically called investigators. You're
Yeah.
supposed to investigate, right?
The problem is Jameson will probably always be the first to go because he's the toughest.
Yeah.
And isn't
Well,
that
if
was
I
that
die,
one of
I'll
your
Followed
Clear
closely by Kate, I think.
He's also daring, right?
That's true.
That's one of his.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go.
So as an explorer, he has to. What does the trait exactly say? Run into danger.
When I press forward into bad situations. Yeah.
Those are the best.
I have a new goal.
Qualities.
During this campaign, I want to be before Jameson in something. I don't know what, but before this campaign is over, I will do it.
Okay. So Duff hears Sal yelling and he's running,
But for now we're
other people
following.
Okay. All right. Now, to kind of explain this river, there is a shallow place right across from where the tent town is. Okay. And this is where a lot of the prospectors will pan for gold. It's downhill or downstream from the mine. And so while Eric Barden retains the right to mine the gold, he does allow prospectors and other people who come up for the gold rush to pan in the river for anything that might have washed downstream. So there's a little bit of a shallow area here. And you all kind of see Sal, he's got a lantern and he's kind of pointing a little bit toward the sort of deeper end. And when I say deep, I mean like only like 4 or 5 feet. He says, look, don't you see it over there? There's somebody in the water. And Duff kind of like looks over and he says, are you sure that's a person? And then you have a couple other miners, and they say, "Yeah, we shot at it. We shot at that thing. Don't get near it."
Do we have a view of this from where we are standing?
You can kind of see something. Like he's holding his lantern up, maybe about 10 feet in front of him. There does seem to be something in the water. You can't quite tell what it is.
Or make a perception text.
Yeah.
That is another one of my attributes. So,
Excellent.
or, I'm sorry, traits. I got 1 success, a 6.
Okay. What you see looks like someone face down in the water.
Like a person?
It does look like a person.
Someone.
Like not like an animal, could have been.
No, like a Shogoth.
It might be a Shogoth. I'm not getting that close. Wait, they said that they shot this?
You could see a shirt. You can kind of
that's
see maybe
definitely
like
a
a
person.
boot.
Now we get to see what Bailey's made of.
Yeah, I'm going to tell Jameson, they just killed somebody. Jameson does not care. It wasn't one of his dogs.
Well, hang on.
Sal says,
That is
"Hey, somebody come down here and help me with this." And Sal kind of like wades down into the water, trying to
I'll
get
go
it.
help Sal.
They just said that they just shot this guy. Where is the sheriff?
Maybe they shot the sheriff, but not the deputy. I don't
We
know.
just saw the sheriff. This could be the deputy.
Okay.
A deputy. I don't
The
know. I don't know
sheriff
who this
is
is.
still kind of trying to subdue the chaos in the tent town.
Is the sheriff within earshot?
You could call it, or yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, sheriff, somebody's like killed someone. This seems like a sheriffy kind of thing.
Just don't fire a gun in the air to get her attention, because she won't notice if people will get shot. Apparently.
Well, again, I don't even own a gun, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Well, the sheriff kind of comes to the riverbank and says, "They shot somebody? Oh, those fools." And she says, "Where?"
They're dragging the body out of the river right now.
Okay, so Jameson, you get close to what Sal's pointing to, and there's definitely a person here laying face down in the water. They're actually kind of submerged just a little bit at a weird angle, like their feet are kind of floating up in the current.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sal says, "What do? We just pull them out?"
Yeah, sure.
I would recommend removing the body from the water. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
As someone who has a little bit of medical expertise-ish from living on a farm, I'll go up to see if this person is truly dead or if it's someone that might need help.
Okay.
But they can
So
get them out of the water. I'm not
We
touching them.
will unceremoniously and probably bashing their head into far too many rocks and tree stumps and branches, get them onto the shore.
Okay. You're pulling, and this person feels very heavy.
Of course they do. Yeah.
Oddly
Okay.
heavy. Okay. And
Yeah.
as you're kind of
Waterlogged.
pulling along,
Yeah.
Duff's looking, and Sal's helping you pull, and Sal says, "Oh, it's Queasy Martin. Look, you can tell." And he kind of flips him over onto the shore, and you see it is indeed Queasy Martin. He's got his mouth open, but you can see that some of his teeth are broken in, and he's got mud all over his face. He's got a big old beard that's kind of tangled up with blood. I feel like
Dang.
he's only been in the water not very long.
Does it look like there was a gunshot or anything? Is there any
Okay. As you're
blood
kind
or
of looking him over, you don't really see any gun wounds.
oh,
Well, they did just say they shot him. Somebody said they shot him.
Sal? Looks like you missed.
Sal says, "Well, look at him. Look at why is his face all bashed in like that?"
Looks like somebody beat him up.
Current rocks.
Jameson pulling the body out of the water? I don't know.
He did just say he bashed his head.
Hold on here. Before we assign blame, I would just like to point out that I ain't the fella who shot this here fella in the water.
Okay, the sheriff immediately runs up and says, "You found a body?" And she kind of like kicks him over, looking at him. And says,
Like his tires. Just
Sound
like
medical advice.
Yeah.
Now, who shot this man? She kind of looks at everyone, and all of the people in the mining camp are just kind of like looking at each other, not wanting to look at the body.
He don't appear shot.
She's, well, how else did he die? Did he drown? Did you just chase him in the river and he just drowned? Is he drunk? And Sal says, no, he wasn't in the saloon tonight. And Duff says, yeah, he was at the church. And the sheriff just kind of says, the church. Right, the church. The church, and then the man goes crazy and runs into the river.
Yeah.
The miners are kind of like, well, he was screaming. He was running through the camp, screaming like a banshee. And we thought he was some kind of animal. And a couple of them that were, insistent that there was some kind of creature or beast. They were like, well, we know what we saw. He had horns and glowing eyes. And
so you chased a man into the water at night. That's what you're saying.
And they're kind of trying to justify themselves and say, well, we didn't know it was Queasy Martin.
And you say he had horns and red eyes, and he is the one who's supposed to be the town drunk. Okay.
Sniff breath.
Mm-hmm.
And the sheriff says, well, somebody's responsible for this. She kind of points to her deputy and says, get the doc down here. Let's get this guy checked out.
What?
The
deputy runs off toward the town to go get Dr. Peterson.
Doctor/coroner.
Doc Peterson.
I'm gonna grab McGraw by the elbow and kind of steer her away from the scene for a minute.
Okay.
And quietly, in a theatrical stage whisper, obviously, because we're in role-playing games.
And we're not courtly people.
Right. Hey, that fancy demon bird of yours. Didn't see nothing weird here, right?
Well, as a matter of fact, Edgar saw trouble.
Saw trouble.
Come back, though. Told him to go look for whatever beastie they were yelling about, but he's not come back.
To be clear, you sent your magic demon bird after whatever beastie killed a man without leaving a wound and then drowned him in a river, and you're shocked your demon bird ain't come back.
It may have escaped your notice, but Edgar flies. I did not send him to attack a beast.
But what if this beastie flies? It dropped a man in the river.
Well, then we got a problem. Indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I'm a little worried. Thank you very much. Do I sense Edgar at all?
You can tell that he's still up there flying, but he hasn't come back yet. He hasn't come down. Now, the sheriff is still kind of looking over the body, trying to figure out what happened, kind of looking at the miners, trying to see who looks the most guilty. They all look guilty because they were all shooting and yelling and stuff like that. But eventually the deputy comes back with the doctor. The doctor is kind of a relatively old gentleman. This is kind of his idea of retirement, was going out and finding a final adventure on the frontier. And so he ended up here. But he's kind of like a country doctor. He's not particularly good at medicine. He knows, enough to keep someone alive, but he's definitely not going to be much help as far as being specific about diagnosing anything. But he's able to come down and says, well, I can't do anything out in the mud. Let's bring him over to my office. So the sheriff kind of points at you, Jameson, and says, you, and then points at you, Bailey, and says, you too. Pick this up. Let's bring him to the doctor's office.
All right, lift with your legs.
And I'm sorry, there was a really creepy time for my internet to get wonky. Just I'm worried about my bird.
Yeah, it started storming here right when we started playing, so that was
Oh,
appropriate.
Good timing. Okay. Well, just to fill you in, Gina, the doctor came and he says, I can't look at the body here. Let's go bring him inside. So
awesome.
everyone's going to
Thank
pick
you.
him up and go. And the sheriff's kind of following. And the doctor is just kind of grumpy because you all woke him up in the middle of the night to look at this dead man. He doesn't even know what's going on.
You know, that's probably the most honest reaction we've got this campaign from somebody.
Truth.
I mean, that is his job.
True. Yeah.
To be grumpy?
To be woken up in the middle of the night when there's an emergency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, also to be grumpy.
As you're pulling the body in, again, you're noticing, Jameson and Bailey, that this body feels quite heavy, like heavier than it should. And Queasy Martin, he's not a big guy. I mean, he's a little rotund from all the drink, but like he's not a big guy. But for some reason, his corpse feels quite heavy.
I mean, did we check his pockets for like gold tablets and stuff? Like he might have been
Gold tablets.
I don't know what he was stealing. I mean, his jacket could be full with lead for all I know.
You want to check his pockets?
I want to just like
carrying him?
figure out why he's so heavy. Like, is his jacket like 100 pounds? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, maybe he did a.
He's wearing a pretty heavy coat because it's cold outside.
It's probably waterlogged, so.
Yeah. It does feel a little bit heavier than that, though. Just a little bit. Okay.
I mean, he's probably not going to need that. We could probably take that off and just make the whole process way easier.
All right. As you're kind of staggering back into the town toward the doctor's office, you see the owners of the hotel come out onto their porch. And this is a married couple, the Lamberts. And they kind of look out at you and say, oh, it's Queasy Martin. Oh, no, what happened? And the wife, her name is Connie Caroline. She says, oh, did they shoot him? And her husband's just like, no, don't make assumptions. You don't know what happened. And the sheriff just says, it was an accident. Go back inside. There's nothing to see. Don't worry about it.
Well,
and Sal and Duff kind of look at each other and they're like, accident, okay.
Yeah.
And the Lamberts say, oh, is there anything we can do, Sheriff, to help? And the Sheriff says, just stay out of the way, calm down all your patrons in the hotel, try to get them to go to bed. There's nothing to see here.
I mean, we got to get him checked out. Nobody really knows what happened.
Okay. So you finally get to the doctor's office, which is kind of on the far other end of town, right next to the church. You get there. The doctor kind of lights some lamps, points to a table and says, drop them right there. Okay. So put him down. And the doctor says, yeah, let's give him a look over. And the doctor starts pulling off his heavy jacket, pulling off his boots, kind of stripping him down, feeling along his arms and legs and chest, trying to figure out what's going on. And then he looks in his mouth and says, broken teeth. Broken teeth.
What?
Look at all these broken teeth in here. He get in a fight, Sheriff? And the Sheriff says, I don't know. And Sal and Duff are kind of like standing in the corner, and they're like, well, we didn't see anything.
I would like to look in the mouth in such a way that, you know, something like a face hugger, but cannot jump onto my face.
Like, what is... Nothing's coming out of there.
Right. I might have been running the Alien RPG recently, and I might have a little unresolved issues there.
Nothing's laying eggs in my chest cavity, that's for sure.
Got it. Okay. Do you have any type of like medical training or anything that would kind of help you? No, you're just looking? Okay. Well, I won't make you roll. I mean, as far as you can tell, it seems like his teeth are just like broken. Like you can see like points and shards and fractures.
Yep.
As if like
I concur with the doctor. His teeth are broken.
And I say, do you think that might have anything to do about his rough exit from the river?
What do I look like?
What'd you do? Trample him with a horse before you pulled him out of the water?
I mean, miners get in fights. Like, it's not, I don't know. I mean,
Also,
people
to
get
be
their
clear,
teeth
the
punched
river
out.
here is full of rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
I'm
since
not some sort of doctor or riverologist. I don't know what you call
To be
it.
fair. Yeah.
The doctor kind of like rolls up his sleeve and sticks his fingers in the mouth and just kind of is poking around.
Ew.
And then he pulls out a pebble. And he's like, and he kind of just like throws it over his shoulder, kind of poking around some more, and pulls out another pebble. And then he's like, what is going on? His mouth is full of these, and starts like just pulling out river rocks out of his mouth.
He was in the river, doctor.
And then he's also like pulling out like some sand and some grit. And he's just like,
what's the current like where we found him? And it seems like something I would maybe be familiar with because of, setting traps, beaver dams, that sort of thing.
Sure. It's not too swift.
Okay.
Especially now that it's getting a little cold. Wherever the river source comes from is probably starting to freeze over. So the water is actually not that like dangerous as far as going in and getting swept downstream or anything like that.
Okay. So that does seem unusual because he shouldn't have been that agitated in the water.
Yeah. And then the doctor keeps kind of just like pulling out like little pinches of silt and mud and dirt and pebbles. And then he just kind of clears out the mouth a little bit and says, hey, and he kind of points to the sheriff and says, hey, bring me some water. And the sheriff kind of like looks at our deputy, and the deputy does it. And the deputy kind of pulls a jug from the nightstand, and the sheriff kind of grabs the pitcher and then hands it to the doctor. And the doctor kind of like pours it over Queasy Martin's face, trying to clean it up a little bit. And he's looking down there, and then he says, oh my God. And then he kind of like is starting to like push on Queasy Martin's throat, and then pushing all the way down his chest and then into his stomach. And he says, there's rocks all the way down. And
Well, that explains why the fellow was floating face down.
Good way to drown someone, I guess, if you're plotted on killing him.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
well, I think we solved the mystery. Somebody clearly force-fed this fella a boatload of rocks.
Yeah, that doesn't solve any mystery for me. That just raises more mysteries.
Then you are entirely too questioning, son.
Aye, that's for sure.
the doctor keeps like looking, and he says, "Oh, look." And then he kind of points to Queasy Martin's fingers, and his hands are cut up, like as if they're just scratches and scrapes and mud deep under his fingernails. And the doctor says, if I didn't know any better, it seems like this man was eating rocks. Looks like he was tearing them up out of the riverbed and just stuffing them down, breaking his teeth on the way. And he's kind of like pushing on the stomach, and he's like, "There, this is full. This is full of rocks."
Well, it's not the first guy that's snapped out here in the mining towns. Probably won't be the last.
I haven't seen anything like this. I mean,
well,
get drunk, fall off a cliff, go wandering in a blizzard. Sure, shoot somebody, shoot at shadows, but nothing like this.
Accidentally go and buffet rocks at the bottom of the river. That's not quite a like drunk activity, really.
And Sal.
They were all just sharing stories about how unusual Queasy's been over the last month.
And they say, "Well, we didn't know he'd do anything like this. I mean, he was talking a lot about fire and brimstone, but he wasn't eating rocks. I mean, that's just unnatural."
Does anybody know where Queasy was comporting himself prior to this here incident?
And Sal says, "Yeah, like I said, he was over at the church. We invited him to come with us to the saloon, and he said no. He was going to go talk to the pastor."
Well, clearly some sort of strange demonic force had possessed him, because what righteous man would turn down a chance to go to the saloon? We better go check the church.
The sheriff says,
Truth.
"Honestly, you think the pastor did something?"
Look, this man here died from eating rocks and then drowned himself in a river.
He might have seen something.
Have you ever seen somebody die from eating rocks?
Exactly.
Sheriff says, fine. Makes sense that we'll go talk to the last person that saw him alive, besides all those fools that were shooting at him. But
whoa. This wielding ain't gonna happen, Sheriff. You go calm the townsfolk down. We'll take care of this.
She says, okay, but I'm sending my deputy with you. Henry, go with them.
Wow.
Do we know Henry?
Henry, he's a relatively young guy. He came up with the miners intending to mine, but then didn't like it. He just like really did not like the mining life, and so he signed up to be a deputy. He's definitely loyal to the sheriff, but he doesn't agree with everything she says, as you can tell. He has his own mind, and he speaks it away from her. Okay, but
my kind of feller. All right.
Okay, so the sheriff says, fine. I'm going to go look for those people, ask some questions over in the tent town again, because I'm not done with them. They seem like they're hiding something. She says, okay. See you later. She goes off, and the doctor says, well, should I cut all these rocks out? And Sal and Duff are like, we don't want to see that. The doctor's like, nah. I mean, if we're going to bury him, he's just going to get filled up with rocks anyway. But I mean, if we want some kind of funeral, it might be nice.
Do what you do, Doc. Like,
yeah.
And he says, yeah, okay, I'm going to cut these out. And then he like goes over and starts like looking at his scalpels. And
I don't want to be here for this part. So I'm like, I'm good to go.
I'm sort of interested, but I'm also interested in what I would be. But I'm kind of also curious what the Reverend has to say about what he saw.
Okay. All right. So sheriff's gone. Sal and Duff definitely didn't want to stick around for the autopsy. So
I don't blame him.
And so the doctor is just going to start on this project. All right.
Are they coming with us?
They're going to actually go back to the saloon because they are a little worried. They were like, what we just witnessed was a friend come out of the river, and this is a little bit too crazy. So they're going to go tell Virgil what they saw. So they're going to go to the saloon.
I want to find some justice for this guy.
Okay. All right. So Henry's going with you, Henry the deputy, and you all go to the chapel, which is basically next door. It's really close. Okay. You're going to talk to the pastor, Arnold Arthur Inglis. Okay. Now, you've been in the town. You know that Pastor Inglis is a little eccentric, okay, kind of like Eric Barden is. He is a middle-aged priest that came out here believing that he could spread the word of God in this boomtown, because if he didn't act as an exemplary Christian to all these people out in the middle of nowhere, then they were going to devolve into madness. And so he's here to kind of, at least in his mind, right, set a good example for civilized society out here. So he's kind of a little pompous. Okay. His chapel he did not build. This chapel was built by Barden, and the pastor just kind of showed up and took it over. Okay, so it's a non-denominational chapel. It's relatively small. It's not really furnished. It's got like a plain wooden cross, and as you approach it, you notice that all the lights are on. I mean, not electric lights, but it seems like there's a lot of light coming out through the windows.
There?
Kind of see some shadow as someone's like walking back and forth, pacing.
I'm going to go approach. I mean, it's weird that he's there this late at night, especially with everything else that's been going on. So, yeah. Is it the pastor?
As far as you can tell, I mean, it looks like the pastor through the window.
Okay. And there's a way to get into that area?
Yep. There's a front door straight into the chapel.
All right. Well, let's do it. All right.
Okay. So before you go in, we're going to go ahead and take a short break, just because we have a 2-hour show and want to make sure that y'all have a little break in between. So let's go ahead and just take a 5 or 6 minute break, and we'll come back at 8:46.
Sounds good.
All right,
Cool.
we'll be back quickly.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, is it getting any warmer yet where you are, Alan?
Yeah, there's almost no snow now, so it's
Good.
basically summer now.
Basically summer.
Little fast forward to summer.
No, it's been nice. It's been around like 40 degrees to 50 degrees any day now for the last couple of weeks, which has been nice.
Good.
It's better than the 2 weeks where it didn't get above zero for like 2 weeks. That was fun. But this is better.
That sounds delightful.
And we're at a place where both Aaron and I have our vaccines.
Nice.
So I actually have people coming over tomorrow to game like in person.
What?
And I'm freaking out a little bit because I'm not trying to know how to do that anymore.
Oh, a little rusty. I can see that. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. That's way exciting. What games are you planning on playing?
We're just playing some miniature games. So
Nice.
But
Utah just opened it up so that you can get, if you're 16 or older, you can get vaccines. And
well, that's great.
I tried signing up, but they're booked up everywhere. So hopefully they're open.
We just opened up yesterday for everyone above 16, but since I'm in manufacturing, I was able to get it before. So I have my first one. My second one's in a couple weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So speaking of vaccines and terrible things happening to us, let's hand it back over to our GM, right? Is that the right segue? Did I do that correctly?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Flawless.
Speaking of pandemics,
Excellent transition.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. So you get into the chapel. The door is not locked. It's usually locked at night, but it's not. And oddly, Pastor Inglis is not the only person in there. You also see the mayor, Eric Barden, who we've been talking about so much. And the pastor's kind of like walking back and forth, and Barden's just kind of sitting on a pew, just kind of nonchalantly leaned over, and then they both turn as you enter, and they're like, "Oh, what can we do for you?" And the pastor just kind of is like, what were those gunshots?
I'm going to approach this kind of as coming from a place of sympathy, not necessarily like suspicion, even though Bailey is suspicious. But well, sorry to inform you, but one of your parishioners was found dead tonight. Queasy. He is no longer with us.
And then the pastor says, "Oh, poor Martin." And Eric Barden is just kind of like, "Queasy, which one was he? Was he the one with, with half his nose missing? Is that the one?" And the pastor says, "No, it's Martin. He comes in here a lot. You've seen him multiple times come and counsel with me." And Barden says, "Okay, yeah, I guess maybe I saw him. Maybe I don't really remember." And the pastor looks kind of sad and just kind of ignores that and says, "Well, have you've come here to perhaps grieve?"
Well, we came here to inform you. We know that you have been getting pretty close, and we thought we should let you know that he died tonight. And maybe you saw him sometime tonight before that happened.
Well, yes, actually, I only saw him about an hour ago, to be honest.
Okay, and how was he acting an hour ago?
Well, just disturbed, really. I mean, he was talking about something in the sky. And we went on the porch and looked up together, and I said, "Well, I don't see anything." And then we started talking about heaven, and well, he asked some weird questions. He was asking, if I were to go down to the bottom of the mine and kept digging, could I get to hell that way? And I didn't think much of it. I just thought maybe he'd hit the bottle a little bit too much that night. And I just explained, no, heaven and hell are places where your spirit can go. You can't actually dig a hole down to there. And then Barden kind of starts laughing and says, "Oh, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard."
Right? Mystery solved.
Henry is just kind of like, "Barden, you might want to go talk to the sheriff about this. This seems like a serious thing. There was almost, they were shooting down at the tent camp, and Barton says, she can handle it. Well, good talking to you, Pastor. And he kind of just like looks at the rest of you and says, whatever your names are. And he just kind of like walks out of the chapel.
Oh, great guy.
We ain't allowed to shoot the mayor, right?
I think that's generally frowned upon.
Correct,
Yeah.
Jameson.
Just a little bit.
All right. Just wanted to check.
So back to the pastor then, because I'll be talking to him. You said that he seemed a little disturbed tonight because, he may have tried a little too hard to dig until he killed himself.
Exactly what happened? How did he die?
He drowned himself, or he drowned. Someone
At
drowned him.
rocks.
He ate
He
rocks
ate
and
rocks.
drowned.
He ate rocks. Yeah, he ate a bunch of rocks, and then he died. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain that.
And the pastor
I don't know
says,
if Pac-Man was a thing back then, but he tried to Pac-Man his way down through the river.
just a little bit. And Pastor Inglis says, well, I didn't know he was that disturbed. I mean, how odd. I mean, he's been coming to the church quite regularly, almost 3 times a day, to talk about, well, hell. He had a lot of questions, and tonight it didn't seem any different, really. I mean, he did seem quite insistent that he wanted to go down, but I didn't think that talking about it would disturb him so much, and I sure hope I didn't do anything that made him do anything rash.
Yeah. So
With your pastor in. And about heaven and hell and all.
Well, I was just answering his questions. He had very good ones. In fact, much more philosophical than I would have expected out of just a simple drunkard, to be honest.
Can I do a quick insight just to make sure that he's on the level, that I don't think he's really suspicious?
Sure.
I'll use my trait again, my insightful trait.
Okay.
And 1 success on that.
Okay. Now that you kind of like think about it, it does seem like he's not telling the whole story.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm not going to say anything about that
Okay.
feeling, though.
He also kind of seems like he's a little bit nervous. Like he wants you to not look that way. And he's kind of just like a little bit like wanting to look over his shoulder back to where the vestibule is, where his kind of like living quarters are in the back of the church. But he just kind of like is always almost turning in that direction, but like not wanting to do it right in front of you because he doesn't want to draw your attention that way.
Do I notice this? Do you want me to roll perception? Or
Yeah,
do we
go ahead
notice
and
it?
roll perception.
Okay.
Bailey can definitely see with his insight roll. He can kind of tell
Yeah.
what he's wanting to do.
Okay.
I'm gonna roll dice, but I have nothing that gives me any special advantage here. So
Okay.
No, I don't either. Mine's just a straight roll, and I succeeded.
Okay. So
I
Molly,
made
yeah,
mine
you.
too.
All right. So Molly and Jameson, you also both kind of notice that he seems like he's trying to like direct your attention away from the back room.
Hmm. Okay, so I raise my eyebrow and I kind of look over at Jameson, like, did you see that? But like with a look instead of talking.
Okay. Katie, at this point, you hear a little tapping on the window of the church, and you notice that Edgar is outside, kind of just like tapping on the window, wanting to get your attention.
My instinctive reaction was to
Excellent.
turn around and just shoot it. Like,
Just
just
shoot out the window.
Oh,
I really
listen to
wanted-
the comment.
Tapping, rapping at the window
Yeah,
At
that was like the
door.
chamber
Yeah,
window.
door.
Chamber
Yeah.
door.
Against the racking.
I audibly am like, phew. And then I gotta go get him. He shouldn't be out there all by himself. And I kind of was sorrowful that I sent him off all alone.
Okay.
Because Jameson.
And,
I-
Because Jameson. That's just gonna be my thing. Because Jameson.
Well, the pastor really doesn't want you to bring the bird in to the church, and he says, "I'm sorry. I'm gonna just remind you that this is the house of God. We want to make sure that
Who made all creatures?
He says,
Like
this is a holy place of worship. We don't want to bring that in here, right?
What didn't that Jesus guy sit down with sinners and stuff?
Right.
Said last time I checked, Crow wasn't able to pray. So
yeah, but how's a crow worse than
a raven?
Leper?
Well, you know they don't have souls, right? Only men have souls.
Oh, well, you clearly McGraw's bird.
She does laugh like really like.
So-
Because that bird's got some sort of soul he done stole from the devil himself or something.
While this is happening and the pastor's over there talking to them, I'm gonna make eye contact with Molly, and look at that back room and hint. I'm gonna see if I can keep him focused on them, not looking at that room. Maybe he'll forget Molly was even around.
Okay.
Okay.
All
So
right.
I will sneak slowly.
Okay, let's have you roll to see if you can sneak without him noticing as he's having this argument about not letting the bird in the church.
About animals and
Yes.
souls.
Arguing about bird souls and whatnot. So one of my traits as a dilettante is called Jack of all trades, and it allows me to test at advantage twice per session. So I am going to use that and roll 3d6 to try and succeed on this one because I feel like it's important.
Does seem like an important
Check up
Yes.
yes.
It's awesome. I love it. And I still failed.
Okay.
Oh no.
All right. So a floorboard creaks as you're kind of like walking in that direction. And he turns and says, miss, I'm sorry. It's kind of a mess back there. And he kind of like rushes past you and pulls the door shut, like very forcefully. He says, well, if you need any counseling, I know that during this difficult time when we've lost a dear member of our community, if you would like to speak to me, I would be more than willing to do that in the morning.
So before he slammed the door, since I was kind of headed that direction, was I able to see anything at all in...
You saw kind of a tipped over chair in the back room. That's all you saw. You really couldn't. There was definitely like some light in there. And as like I said, like this whole chapel is just full of lanterns and candles. Like it's really well lit, oddly, for being in the middle of the night when no one's expected in here. Jameson, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a thing. Do we notice this whole thing with Molly and the pastor?
Yeah, because he had his back turned. So if you're like looking at him.
Hey, Padre. You don't seem mighty keen on anybody looking in their room.
He says, well, that's my private living quarters. I wouldn't
No, he
anyone
don't, do we? Yeah.
Hey, Molly, why don't you just go open that
insist.
door?
And Henry says, yeah, he's kind of acting suspicious. You're not hiding anything, are you, Pastor Inglis? And Pastor Inglis says, no, of course not.
Great, then you won't mind if Molly here and Bailey search your room.
He says, well,
With the deputy.
Because you got nothing to hide. I don't trust that deputy.
But, well, in God's house and everything, God, I'm surely don't mind.
he says,
taking
well,
a get your room.
in fact, I do mind because it is my personal space.
Great. I pull out my pistol and I pointed at him. Are you sure you mind?
And he puts his hands up and says, and he kind of turns to Henry and says, are you letting this happen? I mean, they just pulled a gun on me in the house of the Lord. And Henry says, Jameson, the sheriff won't like it if you shoot a man of the Lord. Well, if you shoot anybody, really.
I ain't gonna shoot him unless he does something dumb.
Well, he says,
He's just threatening.
Henry says, well, I mean, and he kind of like looks over his shoulder and says, the sheriff won't like it, but I mean,
look, the sheriff don't like a lot of stuff. All right, like we could fill up a whole Bible with the stuff the sheriff don't like.
And Henry says, and he kind of like winks at you a little bit, says, I'm gonna go get the sheriff. She's gonna make sure that you don't do this without a warrant. And she like runs off to like let you do what you're going to do, and he's not.
Oh, look at that!
like
Just asking
Henry.
you now.
Henry gets
See,
my
look,
stamp of
You
approval.
got to give people a little bit of a chance, Jameson.
And the pastor
Hey.
says, you can't do this to me.
We're doing it. Jameson's doing it right now.
I believe that's correct.
And I say there are signs of a struggle. So we just, because there is a man dead here that you were the last one to see alive, there is a struggle back there. So.
And
Yeah, well, let's go take a look.
backs away just a little bit.
Jameson, don't take your finger off that trigger.
I didn't think that was a concern, Bailey, but I will keep my finger on the trigger of my gun.
That's horrible gun
that
safety.
I have pulled on the Santa Fe here.
I don't think he's worried about gun safety right now.
Oops.
Okay. All right. So you go open up the back room, and it's actually a really small vestibular room. Like it was supposed to be just a place for the pastor to kind of like put on his like holy vestments or whatever, right? Like it wasn't actually meant to be a bedroom, but it does seem like Inglis has been living out of this small kind of almost closet. The chair that you saw tipped over is on the ground, but there's a strange kind of circle drawn on the floor in what appears to be kind of like charcoal and salt. And then there are candles kind of positioned around. And you can definitely see what appears to be like some kind of like boot mark or very, very kind of like a scuff, like a foot scuff, like kind of moving some of the salt and the charcoal away, so it's smudged a little bit in one area,
like from in to out.
Mm-hmm.
Or
yeah. So it seems like whoever was sitting in that chair got up and rushed out.
That's not suspicious at all.
Right.
Hey, Jameson, you want to bring him in here?
The man of faith?
Yeah.
Sure. I poke him with my gun.
Faith and witchcraft.
Hey, walk in there.
Right?
Pastor,
yeah, Kate, you
Pastor
probably would.
Just kind of goes carefully and says, I wasn't doing anything illegal.
I don't know what this all is.
Kate
probably knows more about this than any of us.
That there doesn't look religious, or at least pastory.
He says, I was just doing what Queasy was asking me to do.
Which was what?
Something you failed to mention
yeah.
previously?
Well, that was between me and the poor dear departed soul, but it seems like I'll have to defend myself.
Well, you got to know that this looks pretty suspicious.
In what way?
I mean, this looks like the devil worship. I don't know what's going on here.
He says it was the opposite. It was the opposite, my dear sir. He says,
right.
Martin believed that he had been possessed by a devil, and I was just trying to exorcise it.
Oh. Exorcism.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any of this.
All
yeah,
right.
That sounds a bit out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You drew some circle with magic symbols on the ground, and now a man's dead.
He says, oh, I didn't draw that.
Who drew that?
Martin drew that.
Yeah.
What was your part in all this?
Well,
what she said.
Candles, and he kind of like picks up a book and he says, and I was reading out of the Bible. See, to be honest, I don't really do exorcisms. I don't believe that Martin was possessed. I was just doing this to kind of ease his mind a little bit. He insisted that I perform some type of holy rite, but I mean, I don't believe in that really. So I was just trying to humor him more than anything. And so he starts drawing all over my floor, and he sets the chair in the middle and sits down and says, sprinkle some holy water on me.
Hold up, Father. You don't believe in the stuff you were saying to the man who thought he was possessed of a devil of hell?
He says, I don't believe that he was. I think he was disturbed I think that he was scared of something.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think that it's actually possible for me to cleanse him of whatever it was that was disturbing him. You see?
Why not?
Have you ever seen a man possessed of a devil?
Yep.
All right.
Well, not me.
And he kind of turns to you, Bailey, and says, "Yes, I have not either." And I mean, it's not a thing that I thought I could do, but he asked me to do it. So like I said, I was just humoring him.
He seemed mighty agitated when he left.
Well, yeah, I guess in the middle I was, sprinkling some water. It wasn't really holy water. I don't believe in that either, because that's some
Wait, what
Catholic
kind of a pastor are you?
What kind of
Church of England.
I don't believe in the stuff I was doing.
So he says, I was just going through the motions, and suddenly he got really angry, just really angry with me, and he said that, well, I wasn't going to take it seriously. He'd have to take matters into his own hands.
And
You
rocks
think that was
into
worth
his own
telling
mouth.
us?
Bailey, I'm thinking he's a kindred spirit.
I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, this guy seems like a
Functionally-
con man.
So functionally, you done killed this man by not taking his concern seriously.
I took him more seriously than anyone else. I talked to him and canceled with him, like I said, almost 3 times a day for the last month. And finally, when he asks me as a friend to, his minister, he's asking me to do this thing for him. And I don't particularly believe that it was a solution to his problem, but I went along with it.
Bailey,
I'm very sorry to hear that he's dead, but I had nothing to do with it.
Bailey, you're more
Yeah.
of a people person than I am.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Probably.
Do you think the priest here had nothing to do with the man's death?
I don't know, I'm going to do insightful again with my insightful trait,
Okay.
just to check, because, maybe this was the thing he was hiding. So I get to roll advantage on that. Is that right?
Okay. Yep, that's right. Go ahead and roll.
3 successes. Look at that. 3
Nice.
5s. What are the chances of that happening?
Hey. All right. You can definitely tell that he is still continuing to hide something. He's hiding something. You
This is
don't
not
know
the
what.
full story, Jameson. This guy is holding out on us.
Can
All
I?
right. Well, it's going to get dark here for a minute because I don't like people who hide stuff from me when I got work to do. So
I would like to do an occult test.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm going to do that by because I did not, thanks to my friend Jameson, Edgar's still with me. But so Edgar goes under my arm like a chicken, but I'm just going to get up in the face of the pastor and look him right dead in the eyes and do my occult test.
Okay. Go ahead and roll a cult. And do you have a trait, right, that lets you roll?
I do. Yeah, it's the archetype trait, the mystic trait.
Excellent.
So I can roll advantage on an occult test. Sorry, I was trying to find my little dice roller. 1 success. Got 5 and a couple 3s. So
Okay.
yeah.
As far as what you know about the scene, this definitely feels like some type of occult ritual. You don't know exactly what the purpose was of it, but you can tell that there was some type of intent to commune with the supernatural, perhaps maybe even invite the supernatural or expel the supernatural. You're not exactly sure, but you definitely feel like whatever was happening here had the specific intent of using some type of ritualized actions to call upon occult forces of some kind.
Can I tell who? I don't know why. For some reason in my brain, I'm getting this sort of everything happening backwards, so that she's actually seeing the casting of the rune and the ritual. Can I tell who did it?
It's
okay if I can't.
This is probably not something that just a plain drunk miner would know about.
Okay.
This seems like
Awesome.
the way that the circle is drawn, the way that the salt has kind of been positioned. This has been done by somebody with like real care and real knowledge and real like understanding of this ritual. This was not just done by a haphazard paranoid drunkard, right? Like this is something serious.
Not moving my face at all, looking him right in the eyes in an uncomfortably close distance. Jameson, this here man is a liar. He done cast this ritual, this rune, this.
Now, Padre, I'm inclined to give a man of the faith the benefit of the doubt, being as you all holy and such like, but seems like you ain't been entirely truthful with us, and I'm about to get Old Testament on your ass. If you don't decide to.
And Pastor Inglis says, okay.
And I shoot him in the foot.
You
What?
shoot him in the foot.
First gunshot for us, at least.
Hey, I made it like almost 2 hours. So
I was
Yeah.
gonna say
There can't be one session without Jameson shooting the gun.
1
that's
hour
for
and
sure.
41 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Roll to hit.
all right. I hit.
Okay. All right. You shoot him in the foot and he goes down. He just like falls hard. And he's like screaming, howling, swearing. And he says, "Oh, Jameson, you shot me."
Yeah.
Well, no kidding.
And he's just kind of gripping it, trying to stop the bleeding. He's yelling for help.
Well, help will come if you tell us what we want to know.
Stop yelling, or I'm gonna have to shoot you in the mouth.
I've
You know,
seen him do.
You wouldn't
I
dare.
can't stop
You wouldn't dare kill someone like me. The sheriff would throw you straight into jail.
Wait, who said the sheriff would ever know?
You clearly don't know the kind of person I am.
It's like whatever the equivalent in the 1890s of like, don't go there with Jameson.
Well, it seems like he's just in a lot of pain, and he is a little bit reluctant to say anything, even still.
Step on his foot. Talk
I don't
truth.
I'm not
I
sure I
mean-
need you to encourage me.
Oh, that's what I'm here for.
Do it, Jameson. Step on his foot harder.
All right,
No,
step on his foot. It's not on me, it's on everybody else.
Okay. All right. Of course, right? The pastor screams in pain and he says, okay, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Okay. And so he starts telling this story about how about a month ago, Queasy Martin walks in claiming he saw something in the sky. Now, and then this is where the pastor gets a little bit hesitant to speak, but feeling the pain in his foot, he kind of is a little more encouraged to start spilling the beans. And he says, I believed him. I thought maybe he did see something. I might have encouraged him to keep telling me what he saw. And I might have been the one to plant the idea in his head that he had been possessed. He
Do something so
insisted,
stupid.
you don't know what kind of things he was talking about. He was talking about being able to see deep into the farthest reaches of the space and looking into the face of the demons that live there.
That sounds
He
like you're
claimed
cracked.
to be able to see beings on the far side of our solar system looking back into him. He was scared of what he saw in the sky.
And you believed any of this.
And you took advantage of him
Oh.
Now, hold,
God.
in his ill state.
hold up, Bailey and Katie. Now, we've established that this priest here was doing some sort of weird magical mumbo jumbo with the whole thing on the floor.
It's not magic. I was trying to exorcise the spirit that he had in him, that was giving him these demonic visions. That's all that it was.
Katie steps on Jameson's foot that's still on top of
Wow.
Pastor's foot because it's like, you're such a liar. Liar.
And he says, I don't know. I don't know what he saw, but I was just trying what I thought was best. I thought that I could get rid of this demon that was within him. And then by this point, the sheriff comes in and she says, "Did I hear a gunshot in here too?"
Nope.
In your pocket. And are you still standing on the pastor's foot?
He tripped and fell.
And she's like, "There's blood all over the floor. What did you all do?"
Pastor here was performing, what'd you call it? Not magic on the floor, all this business.
And she is like, "Pastor, what is going on here?" And the pastor's like, "Jameson shot me in the foot, and they're torturing me, trying to get me to confess to some kind of crime, but I haven't done anything wrong." And he's trying to absolve himself of this thing. And Henry says, Sorry, I left. I didn't know it was gonna get this bad." And the sheriff says, "Well, I'm glad you came and got me, because we have some people in trouble right now."
It's okay. We took care of it.
I'm pretty sure I got 3 witnesses who will say I didn't do nothing wrong.
Pastor surely knows nothing about gun safety.
That's true.
Wiggling
He
all
went for my
over.
gun and it went off, and you know how these old Remingtons are, and stuff happens.
She kind
People
of
get
just
shot.
looks at the 4 of you and says, "Right. Okay. Well, looks like we need to bring someone else to the Dr. Peterson." So she kind of tells Henry to pick the pastor up, and he kind of like is limping and has his foot kind of pulled up, and Henry says, "Okay, let's go to the doctor." And those 2 leave, and the sheriff looks at the 4 of you and says, So the pastor was doing what exactly?"
Brainwashing him.
Dark magics.
Dark magics. And
Deals with the
making
devil.
an ill man think he was possessed by the devil.
And she kind of looks at all of this, and she's like, "Well, I don't really believe in this stuff myself, but I can definitely see how it might have agitated an already very paranoid man."
Yeah, well,
Be it from me to talk about a man not in his presence, but the man also didn't seem to know much about pastoring.
that's a fact.
You may want to
Now
investigate that in
the
your
pastor's
sheriffly
defense-
capacity.
In the pastor's defense with that statement, most nobody up here knows nothing about nothing.
The sheriff says,
True.
"Yeah, I can agree to that, but I'm not here to judge a man by what he knows or what he doesn't know. I'm here to judge him by what he does that's against the law.
Well,
Now, if you all say that he went for the gun and shot himself in the foot, okay, you have your witnesses. Perhaps I'll have to believe you if you're not willing to talk more.
and that is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is just so strange. I mean, what could this pastor have possibly said to somebody to make them go, well, do what Martin did?"
Well, I think that's your job to find out, Sheriff.
Yep.
Well, as far as I can tell, no one's breaking the law. Besides people
No.
shooting at other people.
I don't know. Is it not against the law to tie
Protect
someone up in a
yourself.
chair and convince them that they're possessed by demons until they kill themselves? I don't know. Maybe that's not against the law.
I'm gonna like sharply elbow Bailey in the ribs. And be like, shut up, let's talk at the bar.
Ow.
Well, I'm gonna go ask the pastor a few more questions, and
That's a good
I have
idea.
to spend the night in the jail just to make sure he's safe. And she kind of
Yeah,
looks
he wouldn't want the pastor to shoot himself in the foot no more.
That's
Oh.
a fact.
No, that is a fact.
But you better leave him alone. He hasn't done anything wrong as far as I can tell.
We didn't touch him.
Of course not. She says, okay. And she kind of, again, takes a little sweep of the room. And then she's like, okay, well, don't touch anything. And she leaves.
Yep.
When she's gone, I'm gonna look at everyone and say, "We're gonna touch some stuff, right?"
Oh, yeah. Start like touching
Totally.
legs and everything. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
I
If
just
I like Fams.
I just
Well, I'm
want to
an
look around to see if
investigator.
I see anything that seems out of the ordinary or might be related to the fact that there's like a summoning circle type situation.
Yeah.
Y'all,
Exactly.
I'm still hung up on the fact that that Queasy was trying to dig to hell through the bottom of the mine.
There might be something in here that might shed
Or there
some
might-
light on that. I think it's important we look through anything that he has here.
Can
There
I
might
do?
be something in the mine.
I don't know, but now I do recollect the sheriff talking tonight with I forgot his name, Henry, about something Barden's bringing in, some freight or something's coming in that she don't lack the looks of, and something about pulling the wool over people's eyes, that she doesn't want to get in people's business, but she's not okay with that.
Well,
So-
Bailey's thing is Bailey's belief, which every character has the belief, is everyone has a secret, and so it's pretty obvious that there's some secrets to be found here. So I want to investigate the church and see if, because obviously Barden and this pastor were working together at some capacity. So if there is some kind of weird, creepy shipment that ties into all this, maybe there's some evidence here in the church. I don't know if that's perceptive or insightful, but or none of the above. But I'm willing to roll
Okay.
for it.
All right. We'll definitely just have you roll. It'll probably be some type of like search or I guess perception if you're trying to like look and kind of investigate the church a little bit. Yeah. So anyone who wants to make some type of perception roll to see if you find anything.
One
in the
success.
Church. Okay. One success.
No successes.
0
Okay.
successes.
All right. So Bailey, just based on your ability to just know how suspicious people can be, you're able to actually make a thorough sweep of the church and definitely this closet that Inglis was using. And as far as you can tell, the group's kind of suspicion that this pastor wasn't exactly who he said he was is coming to light. You don't actually see any like well-studied Bibles anywhere. There's a stack of hymnals in the corner that really hasn't been touched. People come here for church every Sunday, and so he does have kind of a stack of sermons, but it seems like those sermons weren't written by him. It seems like they were just coming out of some type of printed manual that he got from somewhere, and he was just reading them out loud. And you definitely also find a very large bag of gold coins that he was hiding kind of back under his mattress in the corner. There wasn't a bed, it was just kind of a mattress in the corner of this closet.
We could just retire and end the campaign right now. I'm just saying.
Right.
I don't know if I trust this weird cursed gold. Who knows?
Oh, that's fair.
I don't know. Is that a thing? I'm going to show everyone. I'm not going to hide it.
Okay.
Though I might pocket a few coins.
Okay.
So if we're being clear here, we think the priest, the father here, the padre, he's shady, right?
Yeah, I think shady might not even begin to describe it.
Okay. So assuming this here man of faith is shady, we can safely assume, I would think, that any advice and or spiritual guidance that he was providing to our friend Queasy might be suspect in the grand scheme of suspicion.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that.
I'm inclined to say that is probably true.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is I should have just shot the here priest.
I mean,
you did
Probably.
shoot him.
But like more in a more
Shoot him.
more in
Shot
a
him to death.
resolute manner that would have resolved the problem for the
well,
immediate.
now he's alive. We can maybe get some information from him. He's not doing this alone. I mean, he didn't come here to start a con of pretending to be a pastor to get people to come to his church. I mean, there's something else going on here.
What kind of
He
person
was-
would travel here to start a long scheme con
Right?
trying to convince people to give him money for stuff? Who would do
He ain't
that?
the telling type either.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing we got
Well, you know,
methods.
takes one to know one, I guess, Jameson. But I'll tell you what, that's all bank is anyway. At the end of the day, just one man conning you to give him his money so he could do something else with it.
Right. So I guess our options are twofold. One is we go into the mine and we see what Queasy was going on about.
I don't need that.
Okay. And or two, we go to the pastor and we ask some more questions in a forceful and pointed manner.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we got some justice for Queasy, and the sheriff can handle it from here.
You trust the sheriff?
No, I don't. But I don't. I mean, this is not our responsibility either. We already went above and beyond because Queasy was a friend. At least he was a friend of mine.
So, to be clear, the one person in the room saying Queasy was a friend of theirs is the one person wanting to be done with this.
I'm just saying, I don't know where I'm not looking to get in trouble with the law either.
I'm pretty
We
sure you're
won't.
always in trouble with the law, Bailey.
Well, I don't need that kind of light shine on my life. I mean, if you think there's more here, then there's obviously
Only
more
if we
here.
go breaking the law. Breaking the law. Breaking the law.
Also, if he has that huge bag of coins behind his bed, I'm sure he's going to have more elsewhere, maybe.
Well, that's fair.
Also, would it be being some sort of pastor a pretty sweet setup, Bailey? This man seems like he's kind
I
of
don't-
riding the coattails of those who come before him.
Maybe in a city, but here out in the middle of nowhere, when people don't have any money anyway, I don't know what he was looking to gain.
They prospecting. Some of these people have money.
Yeah, they don't have
may
money
be
right
soon
now.
parted.
Tomorrow, somebody's going to have a load of
Yep.
money. If they're lucky.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
tell
true.
all your secrets to a pastor?
That's true too. Maybe he's put here for information.
I mean,
I also
and this
think it
is
might-
independent. Oh, go ahead.
Just might be worth looking into whatever is going on with Barden.
Oh, they're
Also-
definitely colluding.
I'm going to point out this ain't the kind of town you can leave real easy come snow.
That's true. So whatever he was planning on doing it safely, not getting caught. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And also, if he has shipments of anything coming in, would you not financially want to get in on that somehow? I feel like there's lots of reasons for you to be involved in this, Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, you're making it more enticing. That's for sure.
And Bailey, I mean,
Okay.
your options are you don't get involved and you don't make any money, or you get involved and maybe you make some money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always for making money.
So, okay, Bailey's in. He's leading us. Bailey, what's our next step?
Excellent.
All right. At this point, you hear someone at the door of the church saying, "Hello?" And there's a bunch of lights on in here. Is someone in here?
I'll like
You
nudge
hear-
Bailey forward. Yep.
I guess I'll go open the door.
It's Dr. Peterson, and he says,
Wait.
"Oh, it's you. You brought in the drowned one, right?
Yeah, but aren't you with the pastor right now?
Oh, he's fine. He just had a bullet
Okay.
in his foot. Patched it up good. Sheriff took him away, but I wanted to show you something interesting." And he kind of, out of his pocket, he points something at you, and as you look closer, you realize that it's actually a finger.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
says-
that's
Wow.
really interesting, Doc.
He says, "This was in Queasy's stomach,"
You.
and he kind of like puts it in your front pocket and
No.
just like pats it.
You
I don't
don't do
even
that
wanna-
with fingers.
I don't even want to think about why this was anywhere near his stomach.
I will reach, pull out the finger,
Thank you.
look at the finger. Queasy's finger?
He says, "No, that's the thing. It ain't Queasy's finger." And he
It's
kind of
Alan's
laughs
finger.
and he's just like, "So whose do you think it is?"
Try to
I
keep
check.
Edgar away from it.
I have all of mine. I'm good. It's not
I
any
guess
of
we're on
mine.
the hunt for the 9-fingered man.
I know. Oh God.
Now I mean, I'm sure lots of miners are missing fingers. That's just a fact.
But how many got chomped with river rock?
That
into
other people
Queasy's-
ate? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and end there because that's a fun little cliffhanger to be on.
I'm gonna wrap that finger up, put it in my pocket, as you do.
Smart. Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank everyone who was watching our show. We're going to go ahead and continue this campaign next week, same time, 9 p.m. EST or 6:30 p.m. EST. And we will continue to see what happens in our campaign. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Yay!
That's our first session. What?
Woohoo!
It still
That
says
was
we're live.
so fun.
It still says
Yeah.
That
we're
was so
live.
fun. Just to be clear, we're still live. This is the after show.
Okay.
Oh, we're doing
Okay.
an after show now?
Well, a quiet after.
You have to do your dealio, right? So we have to keep running.
This is our
That was
our fancy outro. I
Ooh,
guess.
fancy.
nice.
Uh,
That was a
Monty,
heck of a lot of fun.
that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was
good.
great. I'm
good.
in.
Yes.
I'm all in on what's happening. I have no
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
what it is, but I have my
Awesome.
suspicions.
So for viewers, we played 3 sessions, give or take, in advance with these same characters in a kind of an alternate plot that Madi ran us through, so we could get the feel for each other as a group and the characters and things like that. So we've met these characters before and we've met these NPCs before, but this is the first time we're experiencing this particular story. So like this whole thing with the priests and the Turks, that's all new. We don't know what's happening here.
I know.
This is completely. This is
Yeah.
a completely
Freaking
new
awesome.
new story. I mean, we know our characters. We know kind of the world that it's taking place in, but I have no idea what's going to happen next.
That's I'll say I've streamed for years, and this is the first time that we've done a prequel, sort of to acclimate to the system mechanics and also kind of grab hold of our characters a little bit. And I really appreciated that because it still feels super fresh, but I don't feel like I'm going to have to like find my sea legs for 2.5 sessions.
Right. We don't have to like work at remembering everything our characters can do because we've had
Yeah.
so much experience with them already.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was
We
a
did
great
that.
idea.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I'm
But-
really excited to see what
Yeah.
happens.
Me too. I have no
Said,
idea.
Whose finger was chomped into Queasy's stomach.
I know.
Aptly named, by the way. Queasy is a great name for
Right?
someone
Isn't
who
that good?
died
Yes.
eating rocks and human
Yeah.
fingers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I didn't want
All
to know what
the
else was in
names
his
are
stomach.
awesome.
Getting
For all
some,
our-
some
for all our
Seven
viewers.
vibes here for sure.
Yeah. For all our viewers out there, we did have a safety conversation before we started
Yeah.
the campaign.
Oh yeah, for
about
sure.
Yeah.
What was kosher, which I think is an essential step in any horror campaign, explicitly horror campaign.
Well, really in any campaign, but yeah, definitely for horror.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Because we definitely
And
don't want
so-
to introduce things that people will not enjoy playing or experiencing in a role playing session. Yep.
But yeah, so this has been the first episode of Yukon Dark on the Gallant Knight Games streaming services, I guess. It sounds like we have our own TV channel, which is not the case, but we'll be here for the next 11 weeks playing Yukon Dark with the same cast and the same team, and Madi running our campaign for us. And we're really excited to have you join us for the rest of this adventure. So we're going to have everybody kind of outro themselves. Gina, where can folks find you if they want to know more about you?
I'm on the usual social medias, but mostly that would be Twitter at Gina Ricker.
Great. And Ryan?
Yeah, you can find all my content on YouTube at Man vs. Meeple, and then myself on Twitter and Instagram at Loremaster Ryan.
Great. And Ashley?
Instagram's probably the best social media to find me on. It's siscat12. I also have a Linktree. So if you go to Linktree, Ashley J. Smith, it's got all of my other projects and social medias on there if you want to find me.
Great. And Madi, if folks want to find you anywhere?
Sure. They can actually check out my website, madimurdoch.com, which has all of my work portfolio and links to all of the fun things that I write that you can either go purchase or go read for free. And I'm also on Twitter at Murdoch_Madi.
Great. And folks who know me, you can find us at Gallant Night Games on Facebook at Gallant K Games, or I don't know. If you're here, you probably know who we are. If you don't know,
Gallant Night Games, you'll find him.
Yeah, it's cool. Gallant Night Games, we're around.
And where can they find the game?
Tiny Cthulhu is out in digital and PDF on DriveThruRPG and the Gallant Night Games web store at shop.gallantnightgames.com. Physical copies are fulfilling to Kickstarter backers right now.
Nice.
So I say right now, roughly. And after that, it'll be available in print and PDF. So yeah,
Super cool.
Awesome.
super exciting. I want to thank Gina, Madi, Ryan, and Ashley for joining us tonight and giving us some of their time. It's been a blast hanging out and playing, guys.
Yeah, it's been great.
Totally.
Before we log off, can I take a picture to commemorate our first session together?
You can totally take a picture to commemorate our first
Oh, great idea.
All right, everyone say, I don't know, finger.
Finger.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next week at the same time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.